If you think airline drama is wild, just wait until you hear how my HOA Karen demanded my first-class seat, only for the gate agent to announce, "Escort the pilot." And trust me, you'll want to stick with me until the end of this insane story, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button because this roller coaster of entitlement, karma, and unexpected twists will blow your mind and keep you hooked from the first second to the shocking finale. I never imagined one ordinary business trip would turn into the kind of tale people would retell like urban legends, but here we go. It started when I was flying out for a leadership seminar across the country, and after years of collecting miles, working late nights, and waiting for upgrades, I finally had my golden ticket. A cushy first-class seat with extra legroom, champagne service, and the promise of a smooth ride. But as fate would have it, the notorious HOA president from my neighborhood, who everyone secretly called Karen the Queen of Rules, ended up on the exact same flight, and the chaos she unleashed is still burned into my memory. Karen was infamous in our subdivision. She once fined a family for leaving their kids' bikes on the porch overnight, forced someone to repaint their perfectly fine door because the shade of blue wasn't aesthetically harmonious, and sent me 3 warning letters when my grass grew half an inch above regulation height during a heatwave. So when I saw her strutting through the airport lounge in her oversized sunglasses, leopard print travel set, and an aura that screamed entitlement, I knew trouble was brewing, but I didn't expect it to land squarely in my lap. Literally. When boarding began, I was comfortably lined up in the first-class priority lane, sipping my complimentary espresso, when I heard that familiar grating voice behind me saying, "Excuse me, sweetie, but I think you're mistaken. This line is for premium passengers only." And before I could even turn, Karen tapped my shoulder with the same condescending authority she used when patrolling the neighborhood. I gave her a polite smile and said, "Yes, I know, I'm in 2A, flashing my ticket," but she let out this sharp laugh, waving her own boarding pass like a weapon, and said, "That can't be right, maybe you're confused. These seats are reserved for serious travelers, executives, and professionals, not for people like you," which instantly made my blood boil because not only was it offensive, it was also absurd considering I was literally flying out for a keynote talk on leadership, but I kept my cool and replied, "I assure you, my seat is valid," only for her to snatch my ticket from my hand like some self-appointed inspector and declare, "No, no, no, this is a mistake, because seat 2A belongs to me. I always sit in 2A when I fly," as if she owned the row. The gate agent, a young woman named Clara, overheard the commotion and stepped in, professionally asking to see both of our tickets, and sure enough, mine said 2A in crisp black print, while Karen's clearly read 18C, but instead of backing down, Karen puffed up like a peacock and snapped, "Clearly, there's been a mix-up. You'll need to move me to my rightful spot, because I am not sitting back there with the commoners," gesturing toward the economy cabin like it was some sort of unwashed colony, and that's when the entire line started watching with popcorn-level fascination. Clara calmly explained, "Ma'am, your seat is in economy, and his seat is in first class. There's no error," but Karen stomped her foot and demanded, "Well then bump him. He won't mind. He doesn't look like he belongs up here anyway. I deserve that seat more. I'm the president of my homeowners association," which drew actual laughter from nearby passengers because apparently, in her world, HOA authority extended to federal airspace. I should have known better than to argue, but I couldn't resist saying, "Karen, the only thing you preside over is grass height and mailbox paint colors, not airline seating charts," which made her face turn crimson, and she shrieked, "How dare you! I will have you fined." But before she could escalate further, Clara raised a hand and said something none of us saw coming. "Security, please escort the pilot," and for a split second everyone froze because why would they be escorting a pilot at the gate? But then I realized the twist. Clara wasn't asking to remove me, she was motioning toward me, because in addition to being a keynote speaker, I also happened to be a licensed private pilot who'd been contracted as an emergency reserve co-pilot for this flight due to recent staffing shortages, something Karen couldn't have possibly known, and the look on her face when she heard Clara say, "This passenger is also a pilot, and we require him seated where he is for safety protocols," was priceless. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Karen sputtered, "He's a pilot. No, he can't be, look at him." And Clara firmly said, "Yes, ma'am, and that seat is non-negotiable, so please proceed to your assigned boarding group." But instead of accepting defeat, Karen doubled down, shouting, "This is discrimination. I demand an upgrade. I demand compensation. I demand, only to be cut off by the arrival of actual airport security, who escorted her aside for further questioning after she tried to push past the rope line. At that moment, I thought the drama was over, but the real twists were just beginning, because as I boarded and settled into 2A, sipping champagne, I noticed Karen somehow managed to get on the plane after all, glaring at me from 18C like a villain plotting revenge, and sure enough, 20 minutes into the flight, when turbulence rocked the cabin and the captain asked me to join the crew in the cockpit as backup, Karen stood up mid-flight and shouted, "See, I told you he doesn't belong there, he's leaving his seat unattended, clearly a fraud." Which caused a wave of murmurs until the lead flight attendant announced over the PA, "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. Our reserve pilot is now assisting in the cockpit. This is standard procedure," and the entire cabin turned their eyes on her with a mix of annoyance and disbelief. What followed was an hours-long parade of entitlement. Karen pressed the call button every 10 minutes, demanded free champagne despite being in economy, claimed her tray table was too small for her important work, and even tried to sneak into the first-class galley, only to be blocked by an attendant with nerves of steel. By the time we landed, most passengers were openly rolling their eyes at her antics, but fate wasn't done delivering karmic justice, because as we taxied to the gate, an announcement came on. "Will passenger Karen Smith please remain seated? Law enforcement officers will be boarding the aircraft to speak with you." And it turned out that her meltdown at the gate had escalated into an official incident report. She had shoved a gate rope and verbally assaulted an agent, which qualified as disorderly conduct, meaning she was now facing a fine far greater than any she had ever dished out to our neighbors. The cherry on top. As we deplaned, another passenger, who happened to be a YouTube vlogger, revealed he had filmed the entire ordeal from gate to landing, and within 24 hours the video titled, "HOA Karen vs. Airline Pilot Neighbor," went viral, amassing millions of views, turning Karen into the internet's new cautionary tale of entitlement gone wild, while my inbox flooded with messages of support, invitations to podcasts, and even a book deal offer about leadership lessons from the HOA Karen incident, which I'll admit, I seriously considered. The irony was poetic. The same woman who once fined me for leaving holiday lights up past January ended up exposed to the whole world for trying to steal something that wasn't hers, and the very neighbors she tormented back home started hanging little airplane decorations in their yards as a running joke. Some even taped paper, boarding passes, to their mailboxes reading, "Seat 2A reserved for justice," and for once, the entire subdivision felt united, not under Karen's suffocating rules, but under the shared joy of watching her own arrogance crash and burn. And here's the wildest twist of all. Months later, after Karen quietly resigned as HOA president claiming personal reasons, I received a handwritten letter in my mailbox, no official header, no threats, no fines, just a single page where she wrote, "Perhaps I needed that flight more than you know." It was humiliating, yes, but also revealing. I saw how people looked at me, and I didn't like it. I thought power came from control, but maybe it comes from respect, something I clearly lost. I don't expect forgiveness, but I thought you should know. And while I can't say it erased all the frustration she caused, it was the first time I saw her as a human instead of just the HOA tyrant, and it made me realize that sometimes, even the worst villains in our lives are just people desperately clinging to control because they're terrified of losing it. But still, whenever I fly now, I can't help but glance at seat 2A, smile, and remember the day an HOA Karen demanded my first-class seat, only to watch the gate agent announce, "Escort the pilot."